All right, we're recording. Fantastic. Well, Stephen, or the Barefoot Doctor, I am just so delighted to have you with me today. It's been a real pleasure for me to actually make your acquaintance, because I've been lucky enough to actually meet you in person. And when I say you're a gentleman, I absolutely mean that, because you're such a gentleman, and I love the energy I get from you. I always feel so fantastic after coming to one of your sessions, even if it's on video. But having met you in person, you know, you exude this very peaceful energy, and you know, I feel that it's a huge gift that you've got for the world, and I really want to help other people get that gift as well, for you know, to benefit from it. And I'd love to yeah, really just introduce you, the Barefoot Doctor. Sorry, I didn't do a very good introduction there.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
Best-selling author of 16, 17 books now. You're a manifester. You've been practicing the Taoist. I say Tao because that's how I've been saying it for years, until I met you, and I realised I've been saying it wrong the whole time, because it's how it's spelled, T-A-O, but it's actually Taoist principles. And I just really want to say thank you so much for being here with me today. And just really, you know, can we get to know you a little bit better? And, you know, how did it all start? You know, where did it all start for you with these principles?
Well, firstly, thank you, because it was a lovely introduction. I hope I can live up to it. I thought it'd be funny if I started acting like a real yob now. And I want to say that it's equally a privilege to know you and your beautiful husband, because I know you've got good taste in guys. He's such a lovely man. That is a real gentleman. So for you to say that, I really take that on board. Thank you. I'm honoured by it. How it all started, I would say it was my mum, really. I said to her the other day, because I give my mother acupuncture because she has a leukemia, and it keeps it at bay. Whenever I'm in England, I make sure I do that as often as possible. And she was so lovely, and she said, "Oh, thank you so much for giving me a treatment." I said, "No, my thanks are eternally to you." She said, "Why?" I said, "You gave me the greatest gift of all. You gave birth to me. Thank you." That's how it began. So I can't really take the credit for it. But I remember as a baby being awake and having kind of an awareness that there had been a whole raft of experience prior to that. You know, whether you believe in past lives or not, I don't know. I don't know if I do. But there's definitely, we have memories that we get from somewhere. And certain skills. I could tap a rhythm, keep time, even as a tiny baby in the cot. And I was aware that everybody around me was pretending. The adults were all pretending, because my mum would be talking to me in one voice and then pick up the phone and use a different, you know, her telephone voice. And everyone had all these different voices, and there were all these protocols that everyone observed. Morning, Mrs. Smith. Morning, Mr. Jones, and all of that stuff. Back in the 50s, this was.
Yes.
And I was fascinated by why everyone was pretending. Why are they all pretending? Why aren't they just being natural? That was the first thing. When I was 6 years old, I spontaneously heard what we now know is the background radiation wave. That's the sound wave that our universe is built on. It's a 30 light year wide sound wave that is at 50 octaves below human hearing. But it's what we represent with the Om, you know, chanting Om. The Shabd yogis in India, they do that, and then they shut up, and in the silence afterwards, they hope to hear, or they are able to tune into that sound 50 octaves below. So it's possible to hear it. But I don't know why it came to me, but it was just in the middle of the brain one afternoon, looking out the window at the clouds, lying on my bed after school, and I just heard it. But I mean, I can't replicate it because it was 50 octaves below human hearing, and it sounds like a zillion monks chanting together. And I, in my child's mind, and because of my own, you know, education at the time, the way I described it to myself, oh, that's God talking. I knew it wasn't in words. I just knew that it was the hub of the universe that I was hearing. And it was no surprise. It seemed really ordinary. But coming off that was a sort of an implied message that I must share this with everybody. I've got to remind everybody, this is who we are. This is what this is what we are. And it was a vague, it wasn't a very well-formed thought, but I felt the feeling strongly. And then, you know, that kind of informed me. I mean, I don't know if I was a normal kid. I was a pretty abnormal kid. I had a gang at school. I was a bit of a I was a real fighter. I used to love, my dad taught me to box at an early age. So I do actually love fighting. I martial arts, but in those days I would just punch anyone basically who disagreed with me. So I was a real little rotter in some ways. And definitely not like looking like a holy man. If anything, I was going to become more, it would be like a criminal. I think that's what I was headed for. I'm threatened with expulsion from boarding school at the age of 11. I went to a really, really strict Christian boarding school in the Chiltern Hills, which was actually amazing. It was, the strictness worked. I know I would never ever wish that and ever perpetrate that on any child. It was so sadistic and bizarre and wrong, but it worked. You know, that's the irony. I mean, my education there was incredible. I could speak fluent French by the time I was 12 without any English accent in there at all. You know, the whole mind was well honed. And I was going to say I could speak fluent Latin, but I think that would be a real exaggeration. If my teacher ever heard me, he'd say, "You liar." Anyhow, I was threatened with expulsion, and my dad happened to know, for fighting, you know, my dad happened to know, have a friend who was going to this, what was called a healer. He was a Japanese guy who'd been brought over to England by Hugh Caudle, Lord Caudle from Caudle Castle from Macbeth. And he was like a groovy aristocrat, and he was an Aikido master. He was here treating Princess Margaret, this one and that one, in a place in Harley Street. All this made sense as an adult. At the time, it was just, you know, that's where he is. I didn't think about why he was in Harley Street. And I wanted to learn the Aikido because I thought it would be like James Bond karate chops, and I'd become even a better fighter. Well, actually, it did. It turned me into even a better martial artist, but it was all about defense rather than attack. And it was all about not hurting people. Instead of hurting people, just neutralize. And this was such a revelation to me. And he also taught me healing, because that's what he did, energy healing, and how to meditate, which at 11 years old in those days was really quite an incredible privilege I was hardly aware of at the time. But because of the healing skill, I had this like a party trick. If my mum had a headache, I'd take a headache away. If I was, as a teenager, I remember being at parties, and I don't know if you remember this, but you know, when you say 14 and you have these, what they used to call them evenings in, and all the teenage kids are hanging out with each other, and there'd always be one girl who was like the queen, the beauty, the utter beauty, who had like 2 or 3 informal ladies in waiting. And for whatever reason, she always, whoever it was, would like go into a drama that no one understood, and would be whisked off into one of the bedrooms, and no one was allowed in. And everyone was like, "What happened? You know, what's wrong?" And I would be invited in to do healing, which was amazing because I got to see from the other side, you know, what happens when the doors close. What do they talk about? And so it became quite adept, even at an early age, at diffusing pointless melodrama, because that's basically what it usually is. And through my teens, carried on. But by the time I was a hippie, by the way. I was a young one, but I was fascinated by the hippie culture because it was, at last, people aren't pretending for a while. And all the references to India and China and all the mystery of it all, it fascinated me. And there was the yin yang sign was one of the bit of the iconography, and I remember seeing it at the senior hippie's house. He was 19, I was 14, and I was scared to say anything in those days in case I said something that wasn't cool, you know. So I kept very quiet all the time. But eventually I said, "You got to tell me that yin yang sign, because I have that in Aikido. I know that. Why have you got that there?" He said, "Because I'm into Taoist magic." And I thought, "Ooh, Taoist magic? What's that?" And he explained to me, it's all about this thing called Wu Wei, which is that you use your intention. He said, "You know, when you're fighting, you use your intention to kind of topple the other. You kind of basically using intention more than anything, really." Yeah. Well, it's the same with everyday life. If you want something, you have to have your intention very clear. And you also you've got to not care whether you get it or not, because that will get in the way of it. Because you've got to be so happy just being here that you don't care what happens anyway. And like that, you'll get everything you want without trying. Oh, I've got to learn that. So I took myself off to Hong Kong when I was 19, to cut a long story short. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough, man. And I didn't know what I was doing. I really regretted it as soon as I got there. You must stop me if I'm going on too long about this.
No, it's great.
I can do an edited version at any moment. And I'm standing there looking at this electrical shop in the window because it was familiar. I felt really freaked out. 19, hot, humid. I don't know what I'm doing there, jet lag, and I think I must be nuts, you know, like I want to go home to mummy. And I'm looking at this Sony cassette player because it was familiar to me. And this Chinese guy comes up next to me and he said, do you like those then? And I said, oh, yeah. You know, I don't know what to say. And he was such a lovely man. He was just so lovely. And I could quickly ascertain that he wasn't wanting anything from me. So I felt really safe. We just started talking. His name was William. And he's known actually as William the Beauteous Master, was then locally. I told him what I was doing there. I'd come to learn Taoist magic. And he didn't say anything. He just laughed. And he said, come, let's go for a walk. And I'll tell you about Taoism and that. And we were walking. We walked and walked and walked. Eventually, we ended up at his place. He invited me in. First thing was he had a daughter who I fell in love with immediately, and her and me, but she didn't speak any English. So we're just looking at each other all the time while he's talking to me. This ridiculous love affair of eyes. Probably the safest kind as far as I'm concerned. And his wife was really lovely, and she was laughing at that. And he was giggling. And then he said, come, do you want to learn about Taoist magic? Because that's what he was. He was a Taoist magician. It was like, are you serious? So he takes me into his altar room, this magic room, and he shows me all this stuff. And it's weird. The real stuff is really weird because they do all these weird kind of calling in spirits and stuff. And I you know, I was from North London. So, I mean, I'm pretty cynical by nature. And I go, oh, come on, man, I can't not to learn all that nonsense, but I just want to get the gist of it. Like, there must be like a mechanical basis for this somehow. And if I can get it down to the principles, he says, oh, the Western mind. I said, well, yeah, because that's how I am. And I think I could make it better for you even, because I was always coming up with the idea for the other one as well. He thought I was so funny anyway. So he taught me, and he was kind of fascinated by how I would break it down. And I did a pretty good job. I say within about 4 days of him teaching me a bit of magic, I landed myself a job with an international fashion company designing a range of denim wear, like jeans and mostly for women, dresses, waistcoats and skirts. And I promise you, I had never even looked at what women wore before that. I mean, I knew they wore clothes, but if I went shopping with girls and they'd look at something hanging on a rail and they go, oh, that's nice. I go, why? What are you seeing in that? It's like a bit of fabric hanging down. I just didn't get it at all. So this was ridiculous, you know? And I did actually, because I wore jeans and I was a hippie. So I made this kind of hippie thing, you know, with all feathers and applique. It was really lovely, actually. I've never done it before. I mean, I had a designer do all the actual thing. I negotiated with all the different factories for price. And in China, they're really particular. Like, you can negotiate for 4 hours over half a penny, you know, that really, and it's important that you get it right. And I sold this range for these guys all around Europe. And in 1974, I did them 3 million turnover in 3 months, which was unheard of. Now, that was all done by magic. Went back to England and bought myself an apartment in a part of London called St John's Wood, which was at the time a real swanky bit. These days, that place would be worth millions, you know. And I got that, and a black BMW, because that was the car in those days, a black bit. Now they look like little Fred Flintstone boxes, but at the time it was wow. And I'd arrived. I'd arrived on the scene in London as a Taoist magician. That's how it all began, but I could go on.
Wow, I mean, it is absolutely incredible. And I know you talked earlier about, you know, one of the main principles you learned is really how to, you know, really just resolve dramas and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of what you teach now is really us helping people like us deal with our own dramas, because we tend to carry this stuff around with us, don't we? And I know one of the things that you were teaching at one of the sessions was really to drop that drama that happens all at the front here. And because I know I came out and I said, you know, I still wake up and I get this kind of, wow, these things are going on in my life, you know.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that you really bring to us is really managing that, and, you know, going back to that state of play and, you know, love really. And I know you've talked about unconditional love as well, you know, and really vibrating from that higher energy level and that higher frequency.
Okay, but I'm just going to have to take issue with one, but I need to ask you, what do you mean by people like us in terms of... Well, with people like us, you mean, with
Us.
brains and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, when I say people like us, because I know it's something I still struggle with, and I know it's something that a lot of people do struggle with, is those, it's dealing with the day-to-day stuff and getting sometimes a little bit too bogged down with it. And I know that you teach, really, this is not what we're here for. It's not how we're supposed to be living our lives. And I know, I would say, when I say people like us, I say are probably a vast majority of the people out there. And if you're not in that category, people, anyone who's watching this, then but I know for a lot of people, that's what they wrestle with the most.
For everybody,
they want to manifest, because a lot of people just say, yeah, I know what I want to manifest. I kind of know what I want to do, or what I have to do, but I still get this stuff that comes up. So.
Well, I mean, look, let's just take it pretty much as read that it's everybody without exception. Maybe if you live in a tribe that's never been touched by the Western disease, possibly you're free of it. I doubt it, though. I pretty much assume, and I could be wrong, of course, that everybody has the same internal ecosphere in a way. We all have hopes, we all have dreams, we all have insecurities, we all have our confidence, we have our lack, we have our complexes, we have our lies that we tell ourselves, we have our blind spots, we have our virtues, we have our noble aspects, we have our crappy aspects. We've all got it. And so I think we're all dealing with exactly the same thing, and I wouldn't make myself exempt from that by any means. The reason that I'm so keen on understanding all this stuff and using it and then sharing it is because I need it. Of course I do. I'm more human than maybe than anyone else, let alone just as human. And which is why it's good, because it gives me something to work on. I'm my number one guinea pig all the time. And this Taoist system is amazing because it doesn't involve belief or faith of any kind. You don't have to take any leaps of faith with you. You don't have to believe anything. You don't have to believe in any kind of icons or anything like that. There are no stories to it. Well, there are, but they're just parables to help you understand it. But the gist of it is really simple, pragmatic set of principles or protocols that you go through to manage the human condition from moment to moment. And they actually originate, possibly, I don't know, who knows, because it's about 12,000 years old, this system. Although they say 5,000, but that's wrong. It's like the Vedas. Both of them were around 12,000 years ago. They were probably around a lot longer than that, but there's no record of it. That's besides the point. So it's pretty ancient, and it's never really been proven wrong. Like the Vedas, its sort of sister system from India, neither have ever really been proven to be dodgy. Therefore, we have to assume there's something in it. And basically, it gives you these principles to experiment with, and you do that, and then things change. And that's how it works. So the main one, and I was going to say, it kind of originates in martial arts. Certainly for me, it does. When you learn the Taoist boxing forms, I did 4 of them. The most well-known one is Tai Chi, which is usually practiced very slowly, but that's just the shadow boxing to prepare you for the combat, which is fast. You wouldn't ask the opponents to slow down if they were coming at you, please slow down. I only do Tai Chi. It's amazing stuff, actually. But what they teach you is that when you punch someone, ideally you won't ever punch someone, but if you were going to punch someone, you do so from your back rather than from the front. So if I punch from the front, I've got to have a lot of muscular strength for it to mean anything. But if I punch from the back, I've got my body weight in it. I mean, any boxer would tell you the same thing. Likewise with kicks and what have you. And that really does work because you're using the weight of your body against the opponent, and that gives you a lot more power in the situation. But more crucially, perhaps, is that when someone's attacking you, you must be in your back. So not just put your back into it when you're attacking, but when you're defending, you retreat into your back. Because when you do that, there is fear. There will be fear. I mean, unless you're going on anger and adrenaline, which is not really the efficient way of dealing with it, because then you'll just get a random result. If you're doing it properly, there will be fear when someone is violent towards you, because it is frightening. And you can watch the front of your body being afraid, but you're not afraid. It's just that this personality that you think is you is going woo like that, but you're watching it from behind, and it's like, you're not afraid. you're able to do everything you're meant to do, even though you're kind of, it's almost like your passenger in the front is freaking out a bit. I've experienced it. You are able to keep it all cool and do what you have to do, dispense with the trouble and move on without anyone being hurt, in my experience. And that's remarkable. So then that's one of the principles, be in your back at all times. Another one is, rather than keeping the weight of the upper body up, because we're evolving as upright bipeds, or we have evolved as that, we're still kind of pulling ourselves up off the ground all the time. Well, they say, let the weight sink down into the pelvis, because that's where it wants to go. When you're sitting, you let it sink through your sit bones. When you're standing, you let it sink through your heels. And that way you're in touch with the ground and you're not wasting energy holding yourself up. That also has the effect of the weight of the story that you're telling yourself all the time. That drops as well. So your head feels lighter and therefore clearer. And at the same time, to stop you slumping, another very important one is you've got to lengthen the spine at all times. You visualize a white ball spinning above the crown like a ball of light, and that raises the spirit of vitality, they call it. And that's your dignity. You're upright, which means dignified, literally. You have your dignity. The next bit is that you open your chest, like you imagine the two parts of your breastbone sliding apart to reveal, and this is where it's very beautiful, to reveal the beauty of your soul, the gorgeousness of your essence. When you were a newborn baby, your mother, hopefully it was your mother or somebody at least, picks you up and would have gone, we hope they would have gone, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, I love you so much. There's such a feeling of overwhelming love for the newborn baby, because that essence, that gorgeousness is there. That's who they are. And we all have that inside of us. And it is that is our gift that we bring to the world. It's the unique beauty that each of us has in our soul. That's what we're here to share. So they talk about keeping that open, because we close it for fear of disappointment, of being let down, and people treating us wrong, which they will, but the idea is not to close down against it. Keep it open, keep it open. Then your beauty, your love can radiate, and everyone feels that. And it becomes a blessing, basically, to be in your orbit, which is a good way to go around in the world. You've got an advantage, if you like, straight away. You're standing in good relation to all your fellows, which is crucial. So there's all of that. Then the idea of slowing the breathing down by taking command of the out-breath. The in-breath is involuntary anyway. It's the gift from the universe. Here's the next moment of life. But the out-breath, we can intervene with. You can slow it down. So you learn to slow the out-breath down, and then the in-breath slows down to match. And when the breathing slows down, the mind slows down. Not to make you stupid, to the contrary. It slows down to a speed that it works better, the optimal speed for the mind. Because we race our minds a bit too much, I think. And then you make the tone of the breathing very soft and silken, and that makes your mind, your internal sensation, your experience of yourself softer and smoother, more like silk. And in that kind of, within that tone, the content, the thoughts that you're thinking will naturally become brighter and more positive and clearer. And then you relax the muscles of the body, constantly looking at the muscles, and wherever you're kind of holding a bit, you drop it and let it go soft. Not flaccid, just a kind of an active softness. Like you look at a good boxer or a good dancer, a good extreme sports person, when they're in the midst of action, they're fully in it and they're using the muscles, but when they're not using them, they totally relax. They don't waste energy being taught for nothing. And you learn to do that. And the reason you do all that is so that what they call the chi, the life force, it's the force of existence running throughout the universe, so it can move through you freely. Because we are that. We are conduits for that same energy that makes planets spin and galaxies move against space at how many millions of miles an hour it is and all the rest of it. We are vessels of that same force. And it's just a sign of how incredibly well constructed we are that we don't even feel that. Because we're so well built that we hardly even feel the power of the whole universe moving through us, let alone the fact that right now we're on a planet that's spinning on its axis at 1,000 miles an hour, while zooming around the sun at 19 miles a second. Right now, that's what we're doing. We're sitting on a spaceship that's zooming at 19 miles a second, spinning like a top, and we don't even feel it. because we're that well built. It's fascinating, really. However, what they want you to do, the Taoists, is to actually start feeling it. Because when you do it, you get like a buzz. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And that's what gives you the energy to do everything you want to do. That's what makes you feel like the child. Like having, well, actually, being in the back makes you feel like a child. With your heart open in the front, that makes you feel like the child. But the energy of the child, that insatiable curiosity and the will to follow it and the energy to back that up, that comes from, you know, really feeling that you're on the planet with the energy moving through your body. But the point that you were saying, stop me if you want to say anything, but the point that you were making, which is the important one, is that the way we operate is we tell ourselves stories about the world around us. We're educated to do this by our parents, who were educated by theirs, and so on and so on. And we do this by creating descriptions and significances to various phenomena. We ascribe significance to, say, Christmas or Easter or where we live or what job we do or what colour our hair is or the colour of our, or how tall we are or whatever else. We ascribe significance to each of these factors, even though really ultimately they might not have any significance really, because it's like the whole thing's totally transient. So we, as a child, we kind of get these reference points and we invest in them. And through all of that, we create this ongoing drama, the drama of being us. And it's developing all the time, but it works through conflict. So we have different voices that say one wants to do the unbridled, wild, primal, mad thing, and the other one wants to do the sensible thing. And then there's an adjudicator that tries to balance out between the two. And then there'll be a rebel crowd outside the courtroom shouting, no, we want that. And then there'll be a group of kindly people saying, well, just calm down, calm down. And all of this is going on constantly with like the kind of the star or the starlet wondering how the critics think of their show at the moment. You know, how's everyone thinking about me here? Well, maybe they think I'm cool, or, you know, all that's going on. And all of that, this whole drama of being ourselves goes on in the forebrain. The story of it is this ongoing narrative in the prefrontal lobes. It's the most recent part of the brain to develop, and it's only Homo sapiens that actually seem to have evolved that part. The other species of humans apparently didn't, and that's why we managed to wipe them out and dominate. And we were able to do that because this part of the mind is responsible for language, communication, and fictional thinking, fictive thinking. We can create stories, and then we can collectively agree to believe in them. Money. Everyone on the planet agrees in money, believes in rather money as a story. No one even questions it. That is the real world, as real world as you get. In fact, it's not. It's completely imaginary, as we found out. It's a story, but we all agree to believe in it. Same with nation states. I mean, they're just bits of land that the sea hasn't covered over yet. But we call it England or America, and we really believe in that, like it's a reality, this place called England, rather than seeing it as a bit of land on a planet in space. No, it's not that. That's for hippies thinking like that. It's England, you know, it's that thing. But that thing is just imaginary, really. And the logo that holds your kind of focus is the flag, and the jingle is the you know, the anthem and all that stuff. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing this. This is how we operate. I'm just explaining it. I love it as well. You know, I get fooled by it all the time. Like if I'm in London, I'm aware, I've trained myself to be aware that I'm actually in the universe. I'm on a planet in space, because that's primarily where I am. But the temptation is to go, shut up with all that nonsense. Well, you're not. You're in London, man. Come on, this is London. And it's very hard to argue with that rationalistic way of thinking, because we're all brought up that way. Now, we are animals, and we've got 4 million years of programming to keep us awake and alert to danger from wild animals, from earthquakes, from asteroids, and from whatever else was going on at the time before we had it all civilized like this. And because that programming's there, we constantly have a knot in the stomach. Like, is everything okay? Is it dangerous? Is it safe? Now, we have managed to outsource our survival functioning somehow enough to make it that we've killed off most of the wild animals anyway, so you don't have to worry about them that much. Other people, the chances of anyone coming at us with a club, a knife, a gun are really minimal still. And there isn't really that much danger from earthquakes most of the time, or passing asteroids or anything else. We're fairly safe, but there's this fear there. So the mind doesn't know what to do with it. It doesn't make sense to it. Therefore, to make sense, it creates a story, and it will pin it onto, oh shit, I've got that bill coming. How am I going to pay that? Oh, it's all going to go wrong. I know I'm going to end up under a bridge with nothing, begging for £1. I can see it coming. It's and then the belly will react to that by getting tense, and that will cause a contraction in the front of the body, which makes it hard to communicate because the throat closes up with yourself. Even the heart closes in, so you don't feel courage, because courage is the courage is the cœur, you know, the heart. And pulling the head forwards brings the energy of the brain into the forebrain, so it stimulates, while the heat from this rises up and causes it even more. So then you get into this pattern of overthinking everything. What if, over adrenalizing your body, like cortisol's going all over the place. That's the freeze or flight thing of whatever it is, you know, the freeze, flight or fight hormone. The amygdala in the midbrain shrivels up and the whole body goes into contraction, and it stays that way. That's how most people are. And they're living in this state of over adrenalized contraction. And it's not much fun. The only release from that will be momentary, buying some stuff, you know, that you want. For a moment, it will take your mind off it. Getting drunk, which is fun, but I mean, it's only going to make you feel worse when you wake up the next day. Drugs, likewise, or even ambition and achievement, you know, being workaholic, which, yeah, could say a lot more productive, but eventually you're still wasting it all away by not even being present, and so on and so forth. There is only one thing that we can do, and that is step out behind all that and realize we aren't that. That's just a bit of entertainment going on in the front. As soon as you come into your back, that all stops. You just become, like, the back is really solid, you know, mostly solid. The spine's very strong. The muscles either side are strong. The only vulnerable place is the back of the neck and the kidney area. Whereas the front is completely vulnerable except for the breastbone. And therefore it's insecure. And being insecure, it's jumpy and digi. So when you're in the front, you're all jumpy and digi, even if you pretend that you're really cool. But when you're in the back, you're not. It's just quiet and still and solid, really, and not vulnerable. You don't feel insecure. You feel secure. What actually then happens is not only are you able to bear witness to the madness going on in the front there, it's more like, it's, you know, when you're outside a theatre, you go into the West End and you go past the theatre, you can hear the audience applauding and you can feel the vibe of it, but it's all closed. You're on the outside. It's exactly like that. You're sort of holding this theatre in front of you, but you're not in it. And it's like, what a relief. I don't actually have to be in there. It makes no difference, you know. And you learn to sit in your back. And from there, with your heart open, you feel that your presence is huge. You realize that what you are is a lot more than this local being that you thought you were. And that this thing in the front is beautiful. It's your artwork. You've been working on this all your life. It's a work in progress. But it really is only a tool. The personality, the face, it's a tool through which you can communicate. But it's not the master. Whereas what we normally do is sit in the front, and this is the master. And there's no real experience going on, because all we're doing is thinking of the future or the past or whatever. Rarely are we here, other than intellectually for a moment, maybe. Like you read The Power of Now and go, yeah, I get that. But then as soon as you put the book down, you've not got it anymore. What this thing's all about is that you learn to sit in your back, and then you're present. You are here. And being here, you realize you have everything you need in this moment. You're totally provided for by the force of existence. And whatever you will need will come to you. So there's no point worrying about anything. All you have to do is make an intention for something to turn out a certain way. Let go, enjoy the ride as it flips you this way and that, and you'll end up with that thing happening to you, and it will be lovely. And if you stop worrying about everything, you have so much of a better time. And then you're able to help other people feel better when you're around them. And I think I've just run out of words there on that one.
Yeah, and I know exactly what I mean. When I saw you back in February for the first time, you did that meditation going into the back, and I remember you saying about having kind of a big suction machine behind you, kind of pulling your energy to the back. And this so served me, because in the following April, I was actually on stage delivering a public speaking, you know, talk. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And I actually sat backstage about, you know, 2-3 minutes before I was due to go on stage. And I imagined that machine behind me, and I put all my energy sort of down into the seat because I sat down. And I actually thought I was going to have a panic attack on stage. This was, you know, where I was at. And the breathing, at the top of every, wasn't on the slides that were showing, but on my slide notes, I just put breathe, just to remind me, you know, that on, you know, I control my breathing. And on the inhale, we don't have to actually do anything, you know, that's our moment of silence, if you like. You can talk on the exhale, you can't talk on the inhale. And, you know, I totally took everything you gave me in that February and applied it, and I was so calm, and I delivered, and it just went so beautifully. And firstly I wanted to say thank you for imparting that wisdom to me, because it helped me so much, and I still use it, you know, regularly when I find myself going into that monkey mind of oh my god, you know, I owe this money, everything's going to go wrong, I'm going to end up on the street, and all the rubbish that we tell ourselves, really, these false beliefs that we put in there. And I've just found this meditation probably more powerful than any of the other meditations that I've done, where you're sitting quietly, because you're kind of consciously pushing your energy backwards, you know, and imagining that it's being pulled, you're pulling backwards, but at the same time, as you're saying, keeping your heart open, so you're projecting this beautiful aura at the same time. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I want to say thank you for sharing that with the world. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, with what I've just said.
Can I just take everyone through a process? Like
that would be amazing. Yeah, we would love that.
All right. So, like, wherever you're sitting, whatever you're doing, whatever position you're in, you'll notice, like, I'm not sitting upright doing any of that stuff. I'm just like slouching on an office chair. So however you're sitting is fine. Just let yourself get as comfortable as you'd like to be in this moment inside your body. If you might have to shift around a bit or whatever, but just get yourself comfortable. Then allow the weight of your head, your shoulders, your chest, your arms, your ribs, your breastbone. It's quite a weight, that is. Allow that to drop down and settle on your pelvic floor, so that as you sit here, the weight of the upper body is coming down through your sit bones. And note how that makes you feel quite grounded. You know, you feel connected to the ground beneath you. You feel supported by it. Now, to stop yourself from slumping, imagine a white ball of light just spinning in a forwards direction above the crown of your head, and that's kind of attracting the crown upwards. And you'll notice that the back of your neck feels a bit longer. Notice that makes you feel lighter in general. And that being upright, the uprightness that gives you, that's what dignity means, literally. It means you're upright. And dignity is very important for us. We spend amazing amounts of energy to maintain our dignity in our own view. So allow yourself to feel dignity now. Like, get the sense of the spine lengthening, the weight's down, so you have gravitas, you have substance, and you're dignified. The next thing is you have this front section and rear section to your body. Like the front of the spine, which is about halfway back inside, forwards. So basically where the side seams are in whatever you're wearing, forwards of there and forwards of your ears is the front part. Everywhere behind that is the rear part. Now, in this front part, in the forebrain and the throat, the chest and the belly, you'll agree there's a lot of activity going on. This is where you're describing the world to yourself, the things you've got to do, the questioning of whether you're going to win or lose in any given situation. You know, have I got it? Haven't I got it? Am I a winner? Am I a loser? What do they think of me? Do they like me? Am I okay? Am I not okay? Am I in danger? Am I not in danger? All of that stuff is all going on in the front of the brain. And the front of the body, the belly area, is where you're reacting to that conversation by tensing up and holding yourself in a contracted state. That's all fine. That's what's going on in the front. That's what fronts of bodies and brains do. Rather than trying to stop all that, which is really pointless because that's its function, um, avail yourself of what is really your true home, which is the back part of you. When you're an embryo in the womb, you develop, we all develop from the back outwards. So we start off with the back. That's what is there first on a cellular level. And the body grows from the back out. So even on a cellular level, that's who we really are. It's the back part. We're not meant to be in the front. That's a sort of a people-pleasing disease, you might say, a condition rather. That's where the human condition goes on. So what we're doing is we're going behind that. Now, it's really easy to do this because it's your back, but we're not used to thinking this way. So using certain visualizations can help. The one that Karen mentioned is you have an industrial strength vacuum cleaner thing on your back, and it's sucking you from between your shoulder blades backwards inside. It's like sucking the presence in you backwards irresistibly, so that you have to be back. Another way of looking at it, and this is the one I'm most into at the moment, is that you feel where your kidneys are, can't you? They're the open bit in the middle lower back area. Get a feeling of pushing back inside against your kidneys, push back into your kidneys, give them a bit of a squash. The reason that that's good is because the kidneys like to be warm. They function better that way. And most of the time your back's arching subtly and the kidneys are contracting, and that squeezes the adrenaline into your system. What we're doing, we're squashing back into them, we're pushing back, and that relaxes them and stops them pumping, the adrenals pumping quite as ferociously, unnecessarily. Feel that first, then push back into your own shoulder blades. You get a feeling of, it's like this, the back of the chair, and you're pushing back into it. And it feels good. That's what shoulder blades are for. They're there to support you from behind. So make use of them. Don't lean forwards away from them. Lean back into your shoulder blades and enjoy the comfort of that. You'll notice immediately that you already feel more sturdy inside. It's subtle, but you feel more sturdy as a person. And you'll also notice that there's much less kind of disturbance occurring from the front of the body. Next, and this is the one that's probably the most crucial for now, the mind, which is usually involved in all the noise in the front. Give it a well-earned break and invite it to come and sit in the back of the brain. And you get a feeling that the mind, which looks like you, like a Buddha with your face on it, shall we say, is pushing back into the rear wall of the skull behind. Imagine that. Picture your mind pushing back into the rear wall of the skull. And then you're able to observe the world from all the way back here. And you'll notice it feels a bit odd. But it's like if you learnt to drive, for the first part of it, you would have been leaning forwards a bit because you feel obliged to keep an eye on everything. As you get confident, you lean back, and suddenly you notice that you can see far more of the road. And although it feels a bit, I don't know, nonchalant perhaps, you're not really sitting and being very kind of on it. In fact, you are able to drive a lot better like that. That's why racing drivers sit all the way back. They've got a better view of the road, and they can operate everything better when their body's in a state of relaxation rather than leaning forwards. So what we're doing here, we're pushing it into the back part, and now, especially inside the skull, you'll notice that there is no noise going on. It's like how I described it. There's a theatre in the front there, but the doors are closed. It's all going on in there, but you're not sitting there watching the program. You don't have to. But you might think that that's being irresponsible and then you'll lose control of reality. In fact, the total opposite is true. And the reason for that is that all that noise that goes on in the forebrain is mostly redundant. It's pointless noise. The real, and I can tell you this from my own experience, and anyone who does this will confirm it, that the real operation goes on from the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the part that you access when you come into the back part, the back brain. And if you say to your subconscious, I'll explain what I mean. I can go like this. Now, I'm not thinking about that rhythm I'm tapping out there. I just know I'll just do that. To do that requires counting 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 really quick. I can't count that fast. The subconscious can, though. It's easy for it to do that, and that's nothing. Just know that your subconscious is calculating absolutely everything that is going on in the entire universe at this moment in time, without exception. And this is not a lie. This is what's going on. It's the conscious mind in the forebrain that limits all that down to something that will fit in your story. Just bear that in mind. So that just assume, don't take what I say as being the truth. Just take it as something to experiment with. That if you give the show over to your subconscious mind to direct, it will do a much better job of everything than you can do when you're using the conscious mind. The conscious mind then just becomes something that is able to make sense of what you're doing rather than decide it all. So you let the drive come from the back of you, in other words. Another way of putting this is you're putting your back into it. That's really something a lot more relatable to in Western terms. So here you sit, you're in the back of you, you've got your heart open in the front so that your beauty is able now to flow freely. And that is what's connecting you to humanity on a much deeper, more profound level than when you're coming from the people-pleasing, noisy front of you, the personality, the basically the unhinged personality. This way, it's the true self, the true nature, the true character being expressed through the personality in the front. It's like a good actor. A good actor expresses the character through the vehicle of the actor's personality. And it's the same with us. We're all acting, really. The whole thing's a big kind of is showbiz. We're all putting on a show here. So what you're doing is you're channeling through your big presence through the personality when you speak to people. And that way, everyone gets a gift. And I'm talking about business, pleasure, intimate, not intimate. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever interaction you're having with other people, basically, it's the presence in the back of you connecting with the presence in the back of them. It's like the Tao. Karen was talking about Taoism. The Tao is the Chinese name for what we might call God without the religious connotations. The presence informing everything, the energy, the consciousness. It's the presence seeing itself. And when it does that, something amazing happens between the two of you. The presence recognizing itself makes the people it's recognizing itself through be privy to this synergy that passes between the presence and the presence, so to speak. In other words, when you're connecting to the world through your heart, but from being in the back of you, the world treats you in a completely different way. You become its honored, beloved guest rather than something to watch out for, and therefore you're pushed out of the way. And you start finding yourself operating from a place of service to others rather than personal gain. So, you know, we all have that wanting to personally gain, but you find that instead of being driven by that, you're driven by how can I help here? How can I help the people around me and make them feel beautiful for being on the planet? And strangely, that brings everything you want to you in a much better way anyway. But that's not why you're doing it. It just feels right to help your brothers and sisters. So when you now kind of return to a normal so-called everyday state, you don't have to come forwards to do that. Remember to stay back as often as you can. And whenever you do, you're making a hole in the hypnosis. You're making a hole in the story, and you're returning to the true state. You just do that a few times every now and again over a 3-week period, and the dam breaks. You know, there's enough holes in it, it bursts, and you'll find yourself back all the time. And once that happens, you can take command of whatever state you're in and remain in a state of what I call perpetual delight. Come what may, no matter, even in the worst, most awful circumstances, and believe me, I've known a few, even then you still feel the delight in being alive. And that's, you can't actually top that for a skill, I'd say.
I know. And like I say, I think it's just one of the best things I've learned, period. And for anyone who's watching, I'd love to get feedback on, you know, if you sat through and actually did what Stephen explained, what you felt, and you know, if you felt this kind of, it's just a very just a place of peace, isn't it? I think that's the best way to describe it. When you go into the back, you just feel so peaceful, and it's absolutely incredible.
You know, when you're talking and you're excited, you're enthusiastic. So in me, it makes me there's the tendency to want to come forward and participate in that. So I noticed that, and instead I just dropped back. And that way I'm able to give you more energy to you rather than when I come forward and do the excitement thing as well. And that's an example of how we can keep remembering. Just remember, drop back and let the love flow instead.
I know, you can see I'm excited.
That's great. I love that. I love that.
But yeah, I'd really like to move on actually, Stephen. I mean, because I love all that stuff, but I know that you're a composer. You've been writing music for so long, and you actually have created an incredible gift to people in form of something called AMPT. And I've written it down. It's the Advanced Manifesting Procedure, electronically delivered. And I've actually bought this. My husband and I listened to it. I haven't listened to it for a couple of days. And do you know what? I can feel the difference. And it actually helps you to get into that state of manifestation just by listening to this music. Now, what I want to say about it is, and I had a bit of a banter with you beforehand about that. Oh, I'm not sure, because it's quite dancey. It's that kind of genre of music. And I was never much into the dance music, but I love this. Now, I don't know if that's because of the frequencies, but it's just so easy to listen to. You've got the, what do you call it? The, what's the word I'm looking for?
Jazz hands?
Jazz hands. The affirmations, the affirmations embedded in there. And it's just so that you can just listen, and this stuff just gets embedded into your consciousness. And it's absolutely incredible. And I'm not even joking that since we've been listening, that my husband's business we've seen this massive upturn.
Oh, wonderful.
It's been absolutely incredible. And you can explain it far better than I can. So I'd love you to just run with, what it is you've been doing, because I know you've been in music for a very long time.
Yeah, I've been all my life. That's primarily, I would say, I'm a musician. I mean, if I hadn't got involved in all the kind of healing metaphysical side as a child, I would have just been a musician. That's what I was doing, Yeah. And my dad was a musician. I grew up in a musical family. And over the decades, I've made loads and loads and loads and loads of albums and deals with Polygram and this record label, that. Never really properly pursued it, not properly until I was developing, basically. I did amazing amounts of weird experimental events, 1,000 people with drums, for example, and not so stuff like that. And then I was living in Ibiza for about 7 or 8 years, and I did a club night a couple of times a week for a few years there. Started in Amnesia, and it moved around, and it was rated by the Times as being the hottest night of the year. I think they're nuts, but it was a pretty good night. It was really good. And what we were doing was, I was developing this style that I've been doing for years of talking on the mic in a way that's hypnotic and sounds like part of the music, that had to work for people who didn't speak English, mostly, in fact, but that they get it. And it would be like repetitive. I'd be ad-libbing all the time, because I was creating as I was going, and then remembering and writing it down after, and that's how I was working. And things like, I see a beautiful girl walk in the distance. I go, "You're beautiful." It was just remember thinking, "You're beautiful, and you're beautiful, and you're beautiful, you're beautiful." No, I'm not just saying you're beautiful. I mean, you're beautiful. I mean, think about it. You can either see yourself as ugly or beautiful. Why see ugly? See beautiful. You know what's beautiful about you. You're beautiful. And then I keep repeating beautiful, and then I go off onto a little mad rant about the way we do ourselves down and all the rest. And now it's time to lift up, and let's be free and feel the beauty, feel the beauty. You feel the beauty, and everyone go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it would work really well. And then every now and again, I'd drop in a bit of a rhyme just to prove I could say, I was just some weirdo talking nonsense, and gradually built up this way of doing that over the decades, really. And then I've been working with frequencies for decades as well. The different frequencies that create effects in the body. And subliminals. I'm learning about how I've learned how you create subliminal messages, which you can't hear, but the subconscious can. And they work really, really powerfully. And I developed this way, I've heard of paraliminals, where you get one voice saying one thing in one ear while the other's saying something in the other. Well, doing that on a subliminal basis and wanging them from side to side, and having about 6 different affirmations running simultaneously. And the weird thing is, when you're actually working on them and you can hear them, it creates words that you didn't even say, like weirdly. And they're always amazing words. Like, it could be just frequency, it could be healing, or it could be love. And really, I mean, it's really bizarre. Like that, I love that aspect of it, the proper magic bit. But then on the top line is the affirmation thing that I've been developing. And affirmations are very powerful. You don't have to, in fact, you mustn't try and believe them. That just gets in the way. You mustn't think about them even. All you have to do is repeat them. So like, if you say, for example, all right, I'm feeling rather crap. I'm not, I'm feeling really good. But I'm just saying, I'm feeling rather crap. And because of that, I notice that my body is fighting back and making me feel stronger. That's right. I'm feeling stronger now. I'm feeling much stronger. I like feeling stronger. And there's a part of me that doesn't like feeling stronger. That's my self-destructive side. Hello, that side of me. Nonetheless, what we're doing now, we've agreed, is we're going to get stronger. I'm getting stronger. I am getting stronger. Doesn't even matter if I don't believe a word of this. I'm getting strong. I'm strong. I'm strong. I'm stronger now. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I'm strong. And if you just keep that one going for inside for an hour, say, give it a day or two, you'll have forgotten you've done it. And suddenly you'll think, wow, I'm really feeling strong. Wow, man. And then it worked. And that's how they work. Now, what I noticed over the years working with people don't want to do that stuff. They go, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And they don't. You know, if I get people teaching people to meditate and I say, all I need you to do is 2 minutes a day, just 2 minutes a day, no more, no less, but 2 minutes a day, just to make contact with yourself. You can do it the rest of the time while you're going on, but do that 2 minutes, because everyone can do 2 minutes. They all agree. Out of, say, 20 people, one person or two people will do it every day, because most people just don't want to do that. And I totally empathize with that. So my whole thing has been that over the decades, I'm trying to develop something that I can go, here, look, put this on, listen to it, watch it, whatever, and it will do it for you. Here's the medicine, take it, and it'll make you better. Because I'm a healer primarily, so I want to make people feel healed. And you need to take responsibility when that happens. You can't be healed by it. You've got to heal yourself. That means you've got to focus, but people don't. This is a way of getting you, it does it for you, basically. So there are 6 episodes, I call them, ranging from 34 to 55 minutes in length. And each episode addresses a different aspects of life, other people, the world of work and responsibilities, yourself, how you treat yourself, money, how you deal with money, how you deal with love, how you deal with life and death and immortality and mortality and the big picture, and changes the story. Each episode changes your internal narrative for you by the repetition of these affirmations, which are pretty rhyming most of the time, so enable you to hook in and repeat them for yourself without even realizing it. While all the time underneath are these subliminals talking about, it all works out. Everything works to my advantage, no matter what. I don't know why. I don't have to know why. And it all works out. Everything turns to my advantage. I don't even know why, that sort of thing. Which is a very powerful thought to keep going through. So by the time you listen to, you listen to it ideally all day long, but if you at minimum once a day for a week, roughly, and then you start on the next episode. So at the end of 6 weeks, you would have gone through a transformation in your life without a doubt. And I know this because it's selling well and we're getting a lot of feedback from people. And there are getting those that you know, I didn't have a new contract come in for 6 months and did this, and then suddenly 4 contracts came in a day. That sort of stuff is happening a lot. And for me, even more important is I've noticed is my relationship with other people, walking around the street and stuff. Since I made that episode and therefore was working on it a lot, and you know, it takes a while doing that, I've noticed that everyone's treating me in a different way. Everyone's being lovely to me. Like people smiling at me, hey, Andre, and like being like, you know, bringing me into the fold here in Spain in a way that didn't happen before. And it's beautiful. I mean, it really is. I think it's like, anyway, right now I'm working on volume 2 and 3. The first one is actually affirmation manifesting procedure. ED means electronically delivered. It's advanced brain entrainment technology. Apparently, according to the experts, it is the most advanced on the planet. I wouldn't disbelieve that. The second volume is about meditation, and it's all in the first person. I am now relaxing. I'm now sinking my way. You know, it's like that. Very powerful. And then the third volume is about motivation, just, you know, taking action and going for it. And it's really exciting. I'm really excited by it anyway.
Yeah, and it is fantastic. And I do actually recommend anyone out there to check it out. I know you've got a few samples on your website, haven't you? So they can have a little listen. And it's at barefootdoctorworld.com, isn't it? Where people need to go to check that out. And I really do recommend you guys look at this. I mean, if you can just listen passively to something, or I think you could probably even get up and dance to it. Is that good? And for it to do the work for you with your mind, because I know from personal experience, it's something I wrestle with myself, and I know a lot of people out there do. And the fact that the docs put this together and created this incredible masterpiece that brings in the frequencies, they're going to help program, that.
Yeah, I didn't talk about
the brain, and we haven't really touched on that. Is it 300 hertz?
On volume 1, it's all around 300 hertz. Sorry to interrupt. 300, 300 hertz, which is the one that has been scientifically looked into, and they found that it benignly alters the brain chemistry in the forebrain. So basically stops the forebrain from agitating too much, and therefore leaves the back brain free to operate, and also men's tissue. Now, what I found is that the way I do it is I'll set 300 way over to the left. This is for boffins. And then 312, in fact, way over to the right. And then I put it through filters and reverbs and all weird treatments at different times. But what that does, that slight that's caused in the differential, there is a binaural beat created in the midbrain. So at first it makes you go like that, but then within split seconds, you suddenly feel really relaxed, but also very awake, very alert in the midbrain. So it activates the sort of enlightenment aspect of you, I'd call it. What normally could take ages in meditation to get that one going, it kind of just pings you there straight away. Then I developed, the frequency design develops over the 3 volumes. But in the first one, it's the 300, which is a beautiful frequency. It was bequeathed me by an amazing guy called Ken Owens, who was a sound engineer at Sony back in the days where they did everything with massive tape recorders, all analog. And when he died, he'd been reading one of my books and listening to one of my albums, which I'm honored about, and bequeathed me his most beautiful guitar and this frequency, which I don't know how it was generated. They don't make sound like that anymore. You can't. It's such an amazing, what quality. And the guitar as well. And just look at this beauty. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? And it's got such a tone. You can kind of, like in the, what's it called? Pulp Fiction. And,
yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been that's been a gift to be able to have that quality of sound running through the whole thing. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so guys, do go over to barefootdoctorworld.com. Do go and check it out. It's amazing. I love listening to it. Just go and have a look and see for yourself. And Stephen, Barefoot Doctor, I just want to say thank you so much.
Can I just say something? It just occurred to me. It's a new site. We had to suddenly create a new site, Barefoot Doctor World. And because of that, we've got all the trainings up. This is a great time. If you feel that you want a training from there, just for 1 week, the way I'm doing it is it will show you what to do when you go on there. If they say you want to do like the super healing or Qigong, Qigong it's called, or whatever, if you can email me and like convince me that you need it, that you really want to do it, and you can pay whatever you can afford for it. You just say to me, because that's how I used to do my healing practice, I really want to do this because I'm going to use it for da-da-da-da-da. I can only afford to pay you whatever it is, and you'll be able to have it for that. This is sort of a trust exercise that I'm doing. And the site is being built still, so it's a little bit, not completely like da-da-da with the bow tie and everything yet, but check it out. Let's just bear that in mind.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And that's a really great gift. So the guys, go and have a look, see what training is. And if you feel you need it, then do what the man says. Send him an email and tell him why you need it. That's great. That's amazing. And we appreciate you so much for coming on here. So grateful to you.
And you.
And it's been wonderful to see you again. So, and I look forward to the next time.
Thank you so much. I feel like blessed by the Empress. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Send Stephen lots of love as you're watching this video, and we'll see you next time. Maybe there'll be a next time, probably for Amped 2, maybe.
Yeah.
That's That sounds amazing. All right. All right. Thank you very much.
You're very well. You're so lovely.